It is 6 o'clock and I will call the meeting to order. Pursuant to Governor Baker's March 12, 2020 order suspending certain provisions of the open meeting law, GL Chapter 30A, Section 18, and the Governor's March 15, 2020 order imposing strict limitation on the number of people that may gather in one place. This meeting, the Great Barrington Select Board, will be conducted via remote participation to the greatest extent possible. Specific information and the general guidelines for remote participation by members of the public and or parties with a right and a requirement to attend this meeting can be found on the town's website. For this meeting, members of the public who wish to listen to the meeting may do so by following the instructions at the top of the agenda. No in-person attendance of members of the public will be permitted, but every effort will be made to ensure that the public can adequately access the proceedings in real time via technological means. In the event that we are unable to do so, despite best efforts, we will post on the town's website an audio or video recording, transcript, or other comprehensive record of proceedings as soon as possible after the meeting. Pursuant to Mass General Law 7C 30A, Section 20F, after notifying the chair of the public body, any person may make a video or audio recording of an open session of a meeting of a public body or may transmit the meeting through any medium. At the beginning of the meeting, the chair shall inform other attendees of any such recordings. This meeting is being recorded by the town, by CTSB, by the Berkshire Edge, and by members of the public. Any member of the public wishing to speak at the meeting must receive permission of the chair. Listing of agenda items are those reasonably anticipated by the chair which may be discussed at the meeting. Not all items listed may in fact be discussed, and other items not listed may be brought up for discussion to the extent permitted by law. Select boards, announcements, statements. Lee.
Yes, I was just in response to a query from a resident. I was hoping to get an update on our plans for the crosswalk on Main Street. I guess there was a near miss with a resident crossing, and she has requested to see what our plans are with the crosswalk. She's aware that there is a sign now, pointing to a person walking, but I guess there at one point there was something in the middle of Main Street that signified that there was residents crossing or people crossing, and I don't know if this is true, but was there a time that we had a sign that said there was a fine if you didn't stop for residents? So they were requesting if that could be put up. So I guess just a general question on what our plans are now that it's starting to get more busy.
Sean's on the line and may be able to address that in just a minute.
Thank you.
If that works.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yeah, so those signs that go in the middle of the road are taken out every winter and put back out as soon as the weather breaks, and we don't think there's a chance of snow. So they'll be put back out probably in a few weeks. And we also have the engineering work to increase the crosswalk safety being done by Beta. I'll have a timeline on their completion in a few weeks.
Okay. Do we think it's going to be for spring that will be done?
That major construction to alter the intersection or the crosswalks won't be done this spring, maybe in the fall, depending on money. The biggest project downtown is going to be the parking lot out at the Housatonic out back there, the triplex parking lot area.
Okay, so basically for the spring, summer, we're just looking to put those temporary, I guess, I don't know how you said this, things in the middle of the crosswalk. Are we going to restripe it or make it?
Yeah, all the crosswalks we repainted as soon as we have the road swept. And if you'll notice, some of the crosswalks have new flags that have been stuck in a little holder. So when you walk across the road, you can wave the flag.
Okay. And just to follow up on the question about the signs that did say that there was a fine if you didn't stop, why were those taken down, or are they?
They're taken down every single winter so we can plow. They stay in the middle of the road, but they have to be removed and then set back out.
Okay, so that's the signs you're talking about. Okay, so that'll be put up and will be restriped. Okay, thank you very much.
Okay.
Sorry. Two things. I mean, and I guess Sean's here, but I feel like it might be better if it maybe just needs to be a manager's update. I'm just hoping we could get some update on bridges in the next
Yeah, I've already.
month or so.
I already requested that. That will be on the agenda. Yes.
You're so on top of it. And yeah, that's it. Yeah, thank
Okay.
you.
Thanks.
So
Bill?
can I,
Oh, go ahead, Sean.
yeah, so Ty and Bond and myself are going to meet with Mass DOT in a few weeks. We thought it'd be prudent to come back to the board after we had another discussion with MassDOT. So we had more of a complete sort of picture in terms of what we could present.
Yeah, absolutely. Bill,
No, nothing here.
Ed?
Yeah, I got to participate in the first police outreach Zoom meeting today, and I highly recommend it. They're repeating this one, which was just to meet the new police chief on Wednesday, but the whole schedule is on the town website under town news on the homepage. So I strongly recommend that to anybody.
Thank you, Ed. I have nothing, so town managers report.
Thanks, Steve. Housatonic Waterworks, just a very, very brief update. Again, nothing major to report, but we're still on schedule for a presentation of our engineers' findings this spring. And we'll do everything we can do to get the word out and inform village residents so that they can participate once we have a firm date. Moving into general Housatonic updates. We have several for this evening, and I'm going to ask Sean Van Duzen, our Public Works Director, to take the next portion of this list, and then I'll come back on for a brief update on town buildings.
So feel free to interrupt at any time. There's quite a few things, but we can start with the Housatonic School building. As you guys know, there's been some vandalism on the lower windows. So I've gotten a contractor to come in and take some measurements of the windows and give a price for what it would cost to board up the lower section of windows, as well as all of the windows. So I'm waiting to hear back from them to see where the price comes in and to see if we have money in this fiscal year's operating budget to cover it or not. Secondarily, the staff's been instructed to do a daily walk around the school to make sure that if there's any broken glass or any sign that anyone's broken in, that we can address those issues as they arise, especially considering the number of children that are playing there and sliding and using the facility. And there's been, as I said, quite a bit of vandalism of the windows. So we are trying to address the security concerns. Also, I think it's come up discussions about throwing a tarp on the roof. And you guys may recall a couple of years back, we received some quotes to tarp the roof, which included, I think, prevailing wage. And the quotes came in somewhere in the $14,000 neighborhood. That was 2 years ago. And that didn't address the issues surrounding the chimney, which is also deteriorating. And I want to bring up that the repair of the tarping the roof in the manner we would be doing would be a very short-term solution. So if you do that, we are not allowed to use the bonding money that was allocated at town meeting, I think 3 years ago. That would have to be a separate capital allotment, and that money does not exist in my operating budget currently. So that is the sort of rundown of the school building. If you guys have questions about that, you can ask me now, or I can move on.
Lee has a question.
Yeah, I was just curious, have we ever had cameras at the school? And is there, that might be one solution that might not be as expensive as, I mean, I guess we can do both, but just wondering about security cameras. And
Sure. Why don't we can talk about that after the meeting if you like.
Okay.
Yep.
Sean, go ahead.
So I'll move on to the community center, the Housatonic. So you guys might be aware, last fall we received a $170,000 green energy grant, and we've gotten the contract from DOER as well as the executed contract from Guardian Energy, and they'll be beginning doing an insulation project to the roof next month in the Housatonic, as well as replacement of LED lights. And that portion of work represents about $100,000 in improvements to the Housatonic. We're also going to be doing some painting inside of the office and maybe taking some furniture we have at Town Hall and moving it into the office area there in the Housatonic, the little meeting room, should we have time to do that before the weather breaks and my staff gets too busy. So that's the Housatonic. Moving along to Main Street, I think that some people had some questions regarding the water main break that occurred there a few months back. Anyone that's driven over the road can feel with their vehicle that's in pretty rough shape. I've spoken to Jim Mercer, and as well as the contractor that has been working for him. And he's aware that once the asphalt plants open up this spring, they'll be coming in with a paving crew to cut out the undermined areas of the road and repave it in a more permanent way than what they're doing now, which is just using cold patch to try to fill in the potholes, which are pretty substantial. But unfortunately, that's the best that can be done right now, given the circumstances of the weather and the closure of the asphalt plants. Also on Main Street, Gonzalv's Construction out of Ludlow was the low bidder for the sidewalk extension project that kind of goes from John's Garage to North Plain Road. That was $230,000, $230,000, which we had gotten a Complete Streets grant for. That was a committee that I think Ed might have served on, and we were able to get some funds, some grant funds for that. They're going to be starting work there in the next 3 or 4 weeks, weather dependent. So there'll be some issues with traffic for a little while, but it's a good project, and it's going to make that area of Housatonic much safer in terms of walkability, connecting the downtown area to the rail trail as well as North Plain Road, so people can cross to go to Old Maids. So that is the Main Street project. Moving on to Ramsdale Library, we've finished the bidding documents to replace the boiler. That's going out to bid this week. It's hoped that we can get the new boiler installed this spring, depending on the lead time for the replacement boiler, which we don't know what it will be yet. Additionally, the architect that was chosen by the designer selection committee about a year ago, LLB Architects out of Rhode Island, has given us a proposal to start the ADA accessibility to Ramsdale. So that work will probably wrap up this summer, and we'll have some sort of preliminary design to come before the board with this summer in terms of getting access to elderly people and people that are handicapped into that building in a different way. Also, we're out to bid for repairs at the Housatonic Fire Station to the roof, as well as some structural issues and rot in a few places. So the bid opening for that, I believe, is in 2 weeks, and we hope to have the roof repaired in late spring. I think that's a wrap up of some of the projects.
Any questions?
A comment or two. One, a quick one on the library, which is in addition to older people and people in wheelchairs, it's also people in strollers. We'll be able to get it here. One of which I think you have, Sean.
Yeah, I was crying in the last meeting you were on there. Yes. You heard her.
The other one I want to say delicately about the Housatonic School, but there was a post on social media suggesting tearing down the school, and I was surprised how many people jumped on thinking that was a good idea. So I want to say it out loud. I know Dan Bailey's on this meeting, so I know that last time when Dan reported to us, he said everything's on the table, including that. And I know you're in the process of figuring out what else can go there. I guess I'm encouraging you to look at numbers. It's not entirely a financial decision what to do with that building, but to look at numbers. And I think maybe it is time to consider that. I'm not calling for that. I was surprised that enough people who live in Housatonic didn't think tearing it down was a terrible idea. So just saying that out loud. So now we've all heard it. Thanks.
And you have your hand up. Go ahead.
Yeah, thanks, Steve. Yes, Ed, thank you for the comments. As I did mention just last time, yes, when we do the design charrette, they will be looking at any and all possibilities, essentially, which would include the removal of that building and potential something potentially in its place. What that would be another discussion, I guess. And yeah, costs obviously wouldn't be the final answer too. Certainly it makes a difference, but yeah, I think every aspect is going to be looked at as best as we can. And yeah, I've heard that too. Just lately, I start hearing more and more tear it down, and I don't know if it's just because last meeting you guys had, it seemed like the building was in dire needs, which maybe it is, but so some of that could also be reactionary too. Well, anyway, Sean, if I just may ask a clarifying question regarding the roof of the Housatonic
Sure.
School. Last time, it was reported that the roof may not be in safe condition. Have you had anybody look at the roof as far as like an engineer and architect to determine whether or not the roof is actually stable?
So I think that I wasn't part of that last meeting, but I think that what was being discussed was just that it's not so simple as to just go up and throw a tarp on. And
Right.
as you know, you have to get a lull and maybe some staging. The
Right.
people that would do the work would have to be tied off and anchored into something that's that they know is firm enough to stand on. So I think that was partly might have been the rationale for saying, it's a little dangerous. You can't walk up there through that valley because there's a hole in the roof. So there's been no analysis done, no architectural analysis done to really go through what needs to be done. We based our numbers for the roof repairs that went to town meeting a few years ago based upon what was done here at Town Hall. Any sort of work that would have to happen in that nature is pretty substantial, obviously, in terms of the architectural cost. We would need to have that done as part of the large capital project, but it has not been completed yet because I think we were waiting to figure out what we were going to do with the building before we went into an in-depth analysis of the architecture.
Okay, perfect. Thank you. Yeah, I just wanted to clarify that. So when the architects that are going to do our charrette for us get together, they have all the information. And if there had been some engineer's report stating something, at least we could get that information to them. But I think with what you said, they should have everything they need to continue with the charrette. Second question regarding Main Street repaving. I assume that cost of that would be picked up by Housatonic Waterworks.
Correct.
Okay.
The cost is entirely on Housatonic Water.
Okay. Which ultimately comes back to us that pay the water rates. The question regarding that is though, who oversees that, Sean? And I'm not saying that the contractor wouldn't do a good job or isn't experienced in it, but you and I both know that when roads get patched, 2 years later with the weather that we have in New England, there's frost heaves and it's cracking and buckling again. So who oversees that to ensure that that anything they dig up is compacted properly and repaved to whatever specifications are required?
You can be sure I'll be up there when they do the work in compliance with our permitting surrounding compaction and other things, which I think I implemented the first year I started here. You might recall that there were some issues around town with compaction.
Mm-hmm.
If I don't do that road right, I can assure you that my relatives up there won't be happy with me.
Yeah,
So
mine might not be either.
yeah, I know. I'm sure you'd reach out to let me know that. So I'll be there, and I know the contractors will be doing the work, so there'll be communication going on the whole time.
Okay. And just one last question, and I appreciate you guys giving me time. Is the sidewalk itself, the sidewalk extension, and just to clarify, that is going from essentially John's garage all the way down to Route 41, correct?
Correct.
Now, which side of the road is it going on?
The right side.
South or north?
The north side.
North side. Okay. Has surveys been done to ensure that is all town, or is there?
Yeah,
is there
we've got
something-
surveys and easements all done. We're completely ready. Yep.
Okay. Because I know in the south side, obviously it drops off extensively. And I know that you would end up having to put railings and things like that on the south side and maybe even on the north side. And I was just wondering, closer to like country carpets.
Yeah,
Just past the rail trail. I was just wondering if that's also been considered in the design.
sorry, I didn't catch the last part.
So the the section just past the opening to the rail trail, just before country carpets, there's a
Yep.
steep drop off there.
Oh, yeah.
So,
Yeah,
so code would
Yep.
require some sort of railing.
Yeah, it'll probably require a transition of earth on that side to make it taper off. I think that we've talked to the owner about that already.
Okay.
I've looked through my notes, but that's all been addressed, I believe.
Okay.
And I think that we're gonna replace the railing that exists there. If I have to look through my emails.
Okay. And then just one last question about sidewalks. So Housatonic has a bunch of sort of existing sidewalks. Two that really catch my attention because when I walk all the time, I notice them, is the one Front Street, essentially from the corner of Pleasant Street up to, well, where the sidewalk ends, which is essentially just past Deb Kaufman's art gallery. There's a section missing, and then the section in front of the former All Saints Church is also there, but in really, really bad shape. And I know that that's a very heavily walked section of road, and it can be dangerous, especially as you're walking towards the cemetery. And I didn't know if there's any plans to address that or extend the sidewalk all the way to Oak Street, or whatever your plan would be for that. And before you answer that, I'll also throw in the section of sidewalk from sectionally the Pleasant Street directly across from the front of the school up Highland Street to the top of Highland. There is a sidewalk there, but again, it is in bad shape.
Right. Yeah. So unfortunately, there's quite a few sidewalks in town that are between 40 and 60 years old. So there's not much left to them. We just finished the pavement management survey planned by EDM, and in the second phase of their work, they're going to be going through all the sidewalks in town to try to see which ones are in bad shape and which ones aren't, so that we can identify and fix those. Certainly, the areas with heavier foot traffic are places we want to prioritize. Beyond that, we've switched to doing the paving a little bit differently than it has been done historically, which is that anytime I pave a road, we redo the sidewalks as part of it. So historically, a lot of the roads that got paved, the sidewalks were skipped. That's not really the way you want to do it. And so we have changed that. If we pave, we do the sidewalks. And we are trying to address the sidewalks that are in bad shape that need to be redone. I can tell you that the area by the hospital is in really bad shape and needs to be redone, as so is the entirety of the sidewalks in South Main Street. Mm-hmm. So it's not a unique problem to Housatonic. It's definitely something that's town-wide, and we're doing our best to address it. And we will look at those areas you've mentioned, certainly.
Great. Thank you very much.
Thanks, Dan. Anyone else? Okay, moving ahead, Mark, town buildings reopening plan.
Thanks, Steve. One final update before we move on, and that's just to inform the public that most of our town buildings will be reopening to the public on March 15th, so this coming Monday. There are a few exceptions where we'll have limited services, our senior center, Ramsdale Library, and even Mason, but we will be phasing in and reopening all buildings, hopefully by late spring, early summer. But just wanted to let everyone know that that I'm working with staff to get buildings reopened by the 15th, and we will have hours and information up to date on our website and then within the week. So that's all I have. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Public hearing, transfer of existing retail packaged goods store all alcoholic liquor license held by Aberdales Inc. to Sanvi Liquor Inc., DBA Aberdales, Church Kumar Patel manager, located at 10 Depot Street. Do you have a motion to open the public hearing?
So moved.
Second.
I have a motion by Ed, a second by Bill. Roll call vote. Lee,
Aye.
Kate,
Aye.
Bill,
Aye.
Ed,
Aye.
and I, so it's unanimous. So Mr. Porter and Mr. Aberdale and Mr. Patel, go right ahead.
Hi, good evening, board. My name is Matthew Porter. I'm the attorney for Sanvi Liquor Inc. Along with me tonight is Suresh Kumar Patel. Mr. Patel is the president of Sanvi Liquor Inc. He'd also be the proposed manager of the license. Mr. Aberdale has been so kind to join us as well as the seller. I believe Mike McDonald, who represents him, is on the call as well. He may be out there just watching. But before the board, this is the transfer of the license that's associated with the sale of Aberdale's liquors. Sanvi Liquor Inc. Is made up of 4 individuals within the same Patel family. As I said, Suresh Kumar Patel, who's with us, is going to be the proposed manager of the license. Very experienced operational group here. They own other liquor stores within the state of Massachusetts. They certainly understand the rules and responsibilities that come along with it, as well as the great responsibility in making sure that everybody's carded properly and that all protocols are being adhered to. They recently bought the Spirit Shop in Williamstown, and that operation has been going swimmingly so far. No major anticipated changes to the store whatsoever. Mr. Aberdale has been so kind as to help with the transition, so he'll be there for a period of time after the sale occurs, just to help. Like I said, with the smoother transition within the town. There is a pledge of license going back to Mr. Aberdale. The seller is financing the transaction. So in order to secure that promissory note on that we are asking the town to approve a pledge of that license. But very experienced operating group. As I said, everybody is tip certified. All employees were required to be tip certified as well. They have not had any issues with any underage sales or any violations whatsoever in any of their other stores.
Mr. Aberdale, did you want to say anything?
Yes, I would. Thank you, Steve. You know, the Aberdale family doesn't take this decision lightly. We've been in the community for a lot of years, starting with my parents. 2021 marks the 60th year of our business. Owning your own family business, as I'm sure Steve can attest to, it's not always the easiest thing to do. When we reached out to the second or the third generation of our family, no one wanted to undertake this endeavor. So as you all know, that know me, I'm no spring chicken. I'm getting a little bit older here, and I've had a few health issues in the past. So it was, you know, eventually the business was going to have to be sold or closed or something along those lines. So I've had a lot of interested people over the years, and the Patel family that approached me quite some time ago, I visit all their stores and have lengthy conversations about what we do for the community of Housatonic, not just being a store, being there, but also being a good neighbor. And I witnessed that in a lot of their current establishments. So I think, you know, although the name may change and the faces may change a little bit, but the presence in Housatonic and being part of the community will continue. You know, I'm sad to say it's not going to be with the Aberdale family, but as Mr. Porter mentioned, I will be with the program for quite some time in the future to make sure where things are going the way we all want. So again, I'd like to thank the town. You've been very cordial over the years and helpful over the years, most recently the other night. So I suspect that maybe I can continue once I relieve myself of these duties or slow down a little bit. I may be able to participate in the community a little bit more in other areas.
Thank you, Joe. Anyone have any questions or public comment? Motion to close the public hearing.
So moved.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Roll call vote. Kate,
Aye.
Lee,
Aye.
Bill,
Aye.
Ed,
Aye.
and I. A motion.
Motion to approve the transfer of the liquor license.
Second.
So I have a motion and a second. Discussion. Hearing none. Roll call vote. Lee,
Aye.
Kate,
Aye.
Bill,
Aye.
Ed,
Aye.
and I. And I would just say, I've known the Aberdale family a long time, and I know they'll still have a presence in Housatonic. And Joe, you're right. It's hard to run a family-owned store. It's even harder to sell it. So I wish you good luck and your family good luck.
Thank you.
And Mr. Chair, just if I may, can I also have the board just approve the pledge of that license as well? We'll just need that for state purposes. I believe the transfer was approved, but we just need an approval of the pledge as well.
Motion to approve.
Second.
So I have a motion to approve the pledge of the license by Ed, a second by Bill. Any discussion? Roll call. Lee,
Aye.
Kate,
Aye.
Bill,
Aye.
Ed,
Aye.
and I. It's unanimous.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Gordon.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Moving ahead, Strategic Sustainability and Livability Committee, Composting and Food Waste Diversion.
I'm going to recuse myself again.
Right.
So included in tonight's packet was an executive summary from our Strategic Sustainability and Livability Committee on a composting initiative. And here tonight to present to you is Aretha Whitehead and Mark Phillips, both members of our Strategic Sustainability Committee.
Hi, everybody. Thanks for taking the time.
Hi, thanks for having us.
So everybody should have the executive summary as a part of the packet that Mark generously prepared with Sean Van Duzen's support and Aretha and I. Over the past week, this executive summary came out of our letter of recommendation that the committee prepared through research that was performed over the past year. The kind of top level comments are that we have a significant amount of food waste going into our waste stream, and we'd like to basically support the town to take the next steps to make some changes. And so you'll see in the recommendations that Mark prepared that includes some education as well as some more hands-on administrative support, specifically for Sean Van Duzen to work on onboarding into the sustainable materials recovery program, as well as the recycling dividends program. So happy to field any questions you guys have.
Do we have any questions? Seeing no questions, do I have a motion? I've lost Ed, so if someone can make a motion. Bill, just unmute yourself. Still muted, Bill.
How's that?
Yes.
I move that we support this recommendation.
Do I have a second? I have a second by Kate, motion by Bill. Any discussion? Hearing none, roll call vote. Lee,
Aye.
Kate,
Aye.
Bill,
Aye.
Ed.
He recused.
I'm recused.
That's right, you're recused. I'm sorry about that. And I vote aye, so it's unanimous. I look forward to this partnership. I think this is going to be terrific. So thank you very much.
Thank you. We're really excited too.
Yeah, this is going to be terrific.
Great. Thank you guys so
Thank you.
much.
30 seconds that I already. New business. Berkshire Busk, Downtown 2021 Music Program presentation.
Okay, so Berkshire Busk is the brainchild of a small working group led by resident Gene Carr, and it looks like you've already promoted him. Thank you, Steve.
Yep.
That met virtually this fall and winter to discuss a formal music program for the upcoming 2021 spring, summer, fall season in downtown Great Barrington. And the goal was to build on the success of last year's live music on Railroad Street. So It's still in the planning stages, but we'd like to get some feedback from the select board tonight and take an opportunity to promote this idea and build some excitement for spring. So, so Jean's here tonight to walk you through a brief presentation, and if you'll bear with me, I will get the presentation up on the screen. Can everyone see that?
Oh,
Yes.
look at that. You can all hear me?
Yes.
Okay, Mark, shall I proceed?
Yeah, go ahead, Jean, and I'll just give me a heads up when you're ready for the screen.
Sure. As Mark said, this is my goal is to do two things: to give you an overview of the goals of the project, and then some specifics for you to look at. Go ahead, Mark, and go to the next slide. Yeah, so let's start with a lofty goal, which is there are a lot of must-do things in the Berkshires in the summer, and there's, in my view, always room for doing something new and sort of taking our place in creating a real must experience or must do event. So that's kind of where I began, is let's do something that has real impact, that really grabs the attention of the public. Go ahead, Mark. And at the heart of what I'm about to demonstrate or show you is ultimately economic development. You know, the stores and the restaurants in town, not only in Great Barrington, but truthfully around the whole country, have been suffering. And so this is an effort to accomplish a lot of things all at once, but not the least of which is to support the stores and the restaurants in the downtown area. Go ahead, Mark. So the goals, I'm going to just briefly say in the first line, obviously the notion of greater community engagement. We're going to create some employment. This project will create some jobs, and it will give businesses in the area a way to support the town in a new way. Looking on the second line, ultimately I referenced the idea of driving commerce, and also the idea of demonstrating a way to showcase local talent. So how do we actually do all this? Please proceed, Mark. So the idea is what's known as a Busker Festival, the idea of inviting performers of all stripes to perform in various locations along Main Street, which I will describe to you, not really for the joy of performing. This is not a project that, at least at this point, is going to pay the performers. They're going to get paid the way buskers are paid all over the world, by people walking by and either donating on their smartphones or with their dollars in a tip jar. Go ahead, Mark. Mark referenced that it's a music project. It is, although I would like to suggest that it could be a lot broader than that. I would love to have clowns and jugglers and dancers and other types of music. The idea is to really create a smorgasbord of cultural activity, so that you could walk from one side of town to the other and have really a unique cultural experience, different than anything that anybody has ever sort of experienced before in downtown. Some solo performers, some small groups, or 2 or 3 or 4 performers. Please proceed, Mark. The schedule, roughly, it's simple. We're talking about early evenings on Fridays and Saturdays between the July 4th and Labor Day. The times are, I didn't put it down exactly. It's approximately those hours. We'll see exactly as we get closer how many groups apply to perform and how that all works. But this is the general idea. There was programming that happened last summer, which I'm going to comment on in the next slide. Go ahead, Mark. You can forward the slide.
Oh, I did.
Oh, that's interesting. It hasn't moved on my screen. That's too bad. I don't know what you all are looking at right now, but let me see if I can go to my own screen so I can follow along.
Is this the one?
Yes, thank you. That's great.
Okay.
So what I'd like to share with you now are some proposed locations. Where is this actually going to take place? Oh, I see that that the idea here is to create a journey, as I referenced before, walking from one end of town to the other. I've identified a bunch of spaces. Some are appropriate for solo performers, others are appropriate for groups. Obviously, we don't know what the summer is going to be like from a COVID point of view, so we're going to try to be mindful to provide spaces where people don't gather, and bunch up together. And I'll endeavor to find locations where the stores or the buildings are not in use in the evenings on Friday and Saturday nights, so there wouldn't be any conflict with commerce or activities that would otherwise take place in those buildings. Go ahead and proceed. So you may remember that last summer there was various musical activities that took place, obviously on Upper Railroad Street and at SoCo. That's where music took place, and that will continue. And I think you know that Lee Rogers and also Jeff Caminetti are involved in sort of booking, so to speak, the artists for those locations. The Berkshire Food Co-op also brought some music during the daytime, and they're going to continue to do that and bring musicians at night. And then the gazebo, which is also programmed by Lee Rogers, will also continue. So this is sort of the starting point of what we had last year. Now, if you go to the next slide, here I'm going to walk you through a bunch of different locations in the next couple of slides to kind of describe the locations I've identified. I found 12 locations. We may not use all of them. We may not use them. We may not use each of them each night. It depends on really the kinds of performers who apply and who are going to perform. We'll sort of figure out where they will go and what would be most appropriate. So this is sort of the largest number of locations, subject to what eventually gets filled. So let's do a walk down downtown, and we'll take a look, and I'll show you kind of how I have this in mind. So let's start with the next slide. The sort of the furthest northernmost place, I think, will be somewhere around the Flying Church. It could be in there. It could be at this particular spot, or it could be in the parking lot. But there's a lot of open space at the Flying Church, which I think would be good for small groups. Go ahead, Mark. The bank, Salisbury Bank, I know them well. I had a conversation with them today. Their parking lot, which won't be in use, assuming they are agreeable, also very good for a quartet or a trio of performers. So that's the next spot. Go ahead, Mark. Obviously, the post office is not going to be open at those hours, and it's a wonderful big open space where performers could be located. Go ahead. The library provides a really interesting, it's a natural stage, if you will. So performers could be situated at the top, and then you've got the ability for people to stand around, and it's almost like it was designed as a stage. Go ahead. The church, the same thing, St. Peter's Church, same thing. There's a lot of open space there. There's grass to one side, where obviously I would love to do some things for kids where we would have either a clown or a juggler or a magician. So this is a wonderful spot for people to safely gather, but there's a lot of space there. Go ahead. The Berkshire Hathaway location does have some space. I would imagine we'd only want to put a single person, either a violinist playing or a guitar player playing. This is not meant to take up any street space. Go to the next. Same with this storefront. I would love for something to be around this location. It doesn't have to be exactly here. It could be in front of Fuel. Something in the sort of central location there on Main Street would be great. This one has an inset, so if this spot works, it doesn't disrupt the street. Go ahead. Same thing with the store now that's here. It has an inset so that you could have a performer there, so that people could walk by and it wouldn't obstruct the street. I will say as an aside that Robin from Robin's Candy, I had to call with her, and she actually requested that there be a musician outside of her store. I haven't included that location because of a slight concern that that could disrupt the flow of traffic. So I haven't had this conversation with her, but I'm not including that in this initial set of locations. Next one. Obviously, the alleyway around where Rubiners and Ruby's is a nice location because it's set off the street. Go ahead, Mark. This store has, again, a kind of natural stage that a performer or two could be at. And again, it won't disrupt the street from people walking by. Next one. Town Hall, obviously, we had a little bit of snow this day, so, but you can get the idea that you could easily put a performer here. Next slide. The folks at St. James Place have been very supportive, and they've offered up not only to use this location here, and if you go to the next slide, also in the back of their backyard. This could again be an area for children's programming, but they're also going to provide their great room or their meeting room in the back. They've offered that up as sort of a headquarters and storage area for equipment that we might need to store, signs and posters and that kind of thing. I'll also say you may be wondering who the dancer is. That's Mossy Park Harrison, who has a dance company in Housatonic, who volunteered her artistic services for these photographs. Go ahead. Just in the last two slides here, just to give you an idea of the project timeline. Obviously I've been working on this since last summer, but in earnest since the beginning of the year. In a moment, I'll talk to you about sponsorship. We're building digital tools such as a website, application forms, working on budgeting. The nonprofit Center for the Berkshires has agreed to be a fiscal sponsor for this project. So that is basically the January, February work. March and April, we're working on production planning. I'm going to hire some people starting soon. The outreach to performers will take place in early May and June, and obviously event production is in July and August. So that's the overall schedule. Next slide. I guess I missed the slide somewhere in here.
I think that was the hiccup earlier.
Oh, I see. Sorry.
It just
Sorry. Go there. That's the slide I didn't see. Yes. So the point I was going to make here is that obviously this is an entrepreneurial project. I didn't want to let the fact that the town didn't have very much budget for entertainment to stop us. So I've been reaching out to companies and organizations in the area. I'm pleased to say that I have 9 sponsors that have confirmed for dollar amounts that represent about 60% of the funding goal. I've got at least another dozen conversations going on. So my hope is that by the end of this month, I will have secured in sponsorship funding the costs to run this program. And really the costs are hiring some people to be managers and to organize it, and also some production, operational costs and advertising and promotion. Also, as I mentioned to you before, the co-op and St. James Place have offered in-kind services in promotion and space. My last slide here, you won't need to read this, but you should be aware that I come from a background of live event production. I actually ran a symphony orchestra in New York City for about 7 or 8 years. I ran the American Symphony Orchestra, which really meant that we produced the live events at Carnegie Hall, Lincoln Center, concerts out of doors, as well as tours. So I have a background in live events. I also have another part of my career involved in technology, and I started a company that provided ticketing and fundraising software for cultural organizations. So this project brings together sort of the two things that I've spent a large part of my career working on, which is the combination of arts and business and technology. So thank you for the opportunity. I'm happy to answer any questions.
Questions, please.
One, I guess, I understand that fundraising is about the second hardest thing in the world to do, but that's after making a living as a musician. Is there no way to raise the money to pay them?
I didn't say anywhere in here that I'm also a musician. I played in one of the bands at the Triplex last summer. So there's no one that's more dedicated to trying to pay musicians than me. What I didn't want to do was to set an objective to offer musicians payment and then fail to raise the money, and the whole thing would collapse under its own weight. So my goal, Ed, is to keep the fund. I want to raise. I'm not going to stop raising money, right? If I get to the minimum threshold that funds the people and the promotion, and I can continue on such that we can offer the musicians some payment, then that is absolutely positively part of the plan. I just didn't want to. I figured that next year, if this works the way I'm hoping, next year raising money will be easier. Like you said, raising money during a pandemic, not being able to meet people face to face, makes this pushing a rock up a hill. So I want to use the momentum of getting this going. And I also know from talking to other musicians that there is a joy in performing. And I know from our experience, truthfully, at the Triplex, it was not unusual for us to get well over $100 or $200 in a night, just from people putting $10 in the tip bucket. So that's my perhaps too extended answer.
Thank you. Anyone else? I have one hand up. Hold on.
Hi, Kate.
Hi,
Patrick,
sorry, it's just my hands are a bit tied.
Yes.
I guess I noticed a couple of the businesses that you said that you're looking at for locations are businesses that potentially stay open later in the evening, and I'm assuming you'll be checking in with them before you confirm those as locations.
Correct.
Great.
Patrick
Just
Hollenbeck.
potential locations.
Perfect. They're perfect spots. I just wanted to double check
Absolutely.
that. Awesome.
Go ahead, Patrick. Just have to unmute yourself. Well, Patrick's unmuting himself. Anyone else? Patrick, you are all set to go. Just have to personally unmute.
Oh,
There you go.
sorry.
Go ahead.
Sorry about that. Good evening, everybody. Gene, that's great planning. This is Pat Hollenbeck, Housatonic.
Oh, hey, Pat, how are you?
As everybody knows, this has been a devastating year for musicians. This week is the 365th night of silent nights with no live music. This is worst period of music maybe ever, if not ever, then at least in modern history. So for the cultural district to even just mention the possibility of not paying musicians this year of all years is just not going to go well with the general public. So I don't think there's going to be a problem raising money as long as you get the word out, because again, this has been annihilating. Some of the best musicians in the world are not working. The musicians you mentioned, American Symphony Orchestra, all those things, that nobody's working. So, and it's not going to end now. And in our business, there won't be any meaningful work for a lot of these things until the spring of next year. That's the way it goes. So please, I just encourage you, even the town, you got to support musicians. We need it now. We never have before. We need it now. And especially in the cultural district, you cannot let people put a tin cup out at this point. Can't do it.
Well, I think you can.
Thank you.
Thank you, Pat. I would just also add that if anyone that's listening has the opportunity to open a door to a potential sponsor that would be interested in having a conversation with me, I would welcome any help that anyone could offer. As I said before, I'm entirely in agreement with Pat that musicians have had a rough time, and I would love to help in that regard.
Just give your email address, because it was,
It's Gene, Gene, at BerkshireBusk.com. Gene at BerkshireBusk.com.
perfect. Anyone else? I think this is going to be really exciting, and I'm looking forward to this summer. So thank you for all you're doing for this.
You're very welcome. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Citizen speak time. Suzanne Fowl,
Hi there. Hi there. I think you can hear me.
we got twice.
Yeah, there's an echo. For me.
Do you have two open computers or phone?
How's that?
Not any better.
How's that?
Let's try it. I don't think it's better though.
Okay, testing again.
Much better.
Yes.
Okay, yeah, I don't have the echo. I just clicked around different settings.
Perfect. Go right ahead.
I must have missed the Housatonic part.
Yeah, that was at the beginning.
Okay, I apologize. That's why I'm here. And are the recordings of these meetings available or?
Yes, they will be. Absolutely.
Do you guys have time to just answer some questions at the risk of, you can tell me if it's just in the recording and I can go to the recording.
Okay, go
All
ahead.
right. I guess I'm wondering, I'm mostly concerned about the school building right now. Or is there a movement to issue another RFP or where does that stand?
We're not at that point yet, so that wasn't discussed. So hopefully in the next month or 2 months, we'll be discussing it.
It wasn't discussed tonight.
No, not tonight.
Okay. And that's because
Well,
Because you're waiting to hear from the committee.
The Housatonic Improvement Committee is going to do some things and come back to us with a recommendation, and then we'll discuss it.
Okay. Well, as long as I'm here, I just want to voice some concern. And maybe I'm preaching to the choir. I'm not sure what pages all of you are on with the school building, but I just want to say for the record that, I've been here for the almost 2 decades that the school's been closed and standing, and RFPs have been put out several times. And also lots of consultations with different developers. I remember the Mr. Musk chapter and working with Bill Napo and all the different possibilities. And where I'm at this point as a resident, having witnessed all that for 18 years, is that it seems to me that by using that space to improve and expand our town common, our village common, would be the best way to recreate the vitality and the dynamism that used to be there when the school was occupied. So it's just something I've been thinking a lot about now that so much time has passed. I kind of sat back and watched to see what happened with all the RFPs and development proposals or lack thereof. And I said this in a meeting with you guys a couple of years ago, but what seems to me to be the most important thing is restoring the vitality that was once there. And it just seems like if we focus on improving the village common and the park and making it a place for kids and families and parents and neighbors to actually meet each other and have a community, then we can restore some of that vitality better than by, certainly better than by, waiting for some miracle developer. So I just wanted, like I said, I really don't know. I'm talking into a vacuum. I'm talking into a screen.
Right, we're listening to you.
But and maybe you guys are on that page as well, but I don't think I'm talking to any Housatonic residents, so I just feel like it's important to share kind of how it feels to have lived here for the past 18 years and raised kids here for the past 18 years. And
We appreciate that. We do.
yeah. Well, thanks for listening.
Thank you. Anyone else? Okay, we will go then to, well, first of all, I will say there were 36 people at the height of tonight, 6 attendees and 36 participants and 30 attendees, just so everyone knows. Select board time. Lee,
Nothing for me.
Kate, Bill,
No, nothing.
Ed.
No.
And nothing for me. Media time. Seeing nothing from media time, by unanimous consent, we are adjourned. Thank you very much.